Well, it is time for the Stochastic Fiction Game, an oddly named game. A game that begins with generating an outline using time, entropy is random and variable. As I try to find a way to talk. I execute this script right here. We're going to go ahead and execute it. It's called the Stochastic.py. It's a Python script. This is available online. And is what this does. If I look at the files that have been created recently, we see one called Stochastic Fiction Game with a GUID, randomly generated number. We're going to open this up and we're going to follow these story elements to create a story. Well, let's see. For today's Stochastic Fiction Game, our outline has these story elements. Setting time future. Setting main location sky. Conflict person versus destiny. Quantity of primary characters 2. Point of view 3rd. Tense past tense. Genre dystopian. Format novel first chapter. So for today's Stochastic Fiction Game, and within the next 2 hours, I'll create and write the first chapter of a novel and have to have some sort of understanding of how the novel's going to, well, tell a story. I have no idea. This is awkward. I don't know if I have the mental capacity to invent an entire book right now, but let's not whine about it and let's just do it. A lot of your creative endeavors you're never going to really want to do day in and day out. It's just a matter of getting up, getting your mind right, finding the time and doing it. You'll have the time. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes your mind will get in the way, and sometimes working 12 hours will get in the way. Sometimes doing physical manual labor will just burn your body out, and all you want to do is stare at a wall and not do anything. Well, guess what? That's fine. But you can do more. It just takes time, planning, focus, and finding some joy in it. I'm just talking out loud right now because I have no idea where to go with this story. And it's a whole novel. I'll have it take place in the sky. If it's in the future, though, geez, we can have a sky tower. Let's do it. Let's go for it. Dystopian. But it's in the sky. You really have to be in a utopia world to be able to have a society that lives in the sky. Of course, it doesn't have to be our world necessarily. But I want to invent a whole world in the sky. It takes place in the sky. Like my first thing when I read that, especially with the dystopia, I thought of some huge flying machine. Cloud City that somehow works. And if that were true, then, they'd be the overlords. Because you have power of the sky and you can able to have some sort of city that flies above it and floats above the land. You're going to be a pretty dominant force. You can shoot up, but it's easier to shoot down. I think that's how it goes with a lot of things in life. And this has got to be a novel first chapter. So obviously, if it's dystopian, it's about getting into the sky. You're already in the sky. I just wouldn't just have this person be a poor plebe, maybe at the first of the novel, that is indentured to go work with the Sky Lords. And what just came to mind right now, honestly, when I thought of that was a trilogy of books. At least it may have a fourth one, but I only knew them as a trilogy. I think it's now called the Tripod Trilogy. The first book was called The White Mountains. It's about a group of kids. Well, it's about a society where they have these 3-legged walking machines that come in and put caps on kids' heads when they turn 18 as a sort of a way of conformity. That was the science fiction part of it. But control And then the kids find a way to be able to enter one of these alien domes and eventually find a way to kill them and take them over. That was the third book and the last book. Sorry to ruin it for you if ever you read it, but it's a good book. It's a good trilogy. That just came to mind. Like this person, instead of getting mature, they're just of the age of working, and they decide they're selected, and they have to go work in the Sky Tower. And the last part of the book is they win. Or dystopia, that dystopia is done, the one Sky Tower, so maybe it would be a trilogy. And tentatively call this something like Skylords. Shooting down. I think that goes goes with a lot of things in life. It's easier to punch down than it is to punch up. It's either to step down than it is to step up. Unless you're in a fight, and it's really hard to step down sometimes when you should, but that could be considered stepping up. We'll call it shooting down. Maybe that's the first chapter. And then we can have the last one called shooting up, which sounds like you're now a drug addict. Like the last chapter. I'm not going to overrun this this society of a race that controls us. I'm just going to become addicted to narcotics. Shooting up. No. Or maybe rise up. Shooting down, rising up. I like that. That's a good way. It's like a positive away from dystopia. It's good to have shooting down as a first chapter name, because that's like, I don't know if I even need to. I usually think of the whole book, but it helps me like think of everything that's needed, because it's outside of like writing dystopia. It's not that hard, at least for me, unfortunately. I'm trying to edit a story right now, not to tangent, but it helps me at least get this thought out, that it's called Dark Chambers. I'm trying to make it like positive and inspirational, and with an ending where society turns for the better. And it's so hard because it just seems so unbelievable that you find yourself just making it seem like you're telling some, what is it, that character Pollyanna who always saw the positive side of things. You feel like Pollyanna writing a story. Unless I guess you talk about all the pain and the reality that it's probably going to fail. But it doesn't matter. You got to try. Anyway, let's focus on this story. We'll call it Shooting Down as the first one. This is where the kid gets... kid is initiated. Kid becomes... I'm going to get this brighter here. There we go. Now I can see bright numbers. We'll have it auctioned. The kid is auctioned. These are all the different chapters. The kid is processed, right? So we're just going to follow this human through the Sky Lords. And this will be the chapter about them going and telling the back history. Kid is processed. Kid is auctioned. The kid is moved to the new... I guess it's not going to be... It'd be like a young adult. Because now we got... Well, what do we want here? If you had it young, it really wouldn't be that. You couldn't have any agency. And that's the problem I have with it being like 18 in this society and in many societies, like you're an adult. And so in a story like this, for me, it'd be a way, maybe not the way. It would be a way to be able to... Kid is taken from ground to sky. If they're 18, they have more agency, they have more ability to think, they're easy character to write. It doesn't have to take place over a long span of time because you're really not going to be able to rise up if you're a 10-year-old. Sorry, 10-year-olds, but you're not that coordinated or smart to be able to have an uprising. 2, then you could use the idea of like they did in the White Mountains where you turn 18 and this thing comes and you transform, sort of showing how in society at the age of 18 we expect you to be fully mature and out the door. So, okay, so the kid is taken from ground to sky. The kid is processed and checked for health and tracking. The kid is auctioned. The kid is moved. So it's going to be like, well, they're still a kid though. I'm sorry, 18-year-old. Kid of 18. Let's compromise. Just because you have this magical number doesn't mean you know everything, or maybe you're, I don't know, young adult, older kid. Oh, man. Is moved to their owners. And maybe it does. Maybe that's it. Maybe it is young. But maybe not. Let's just go with this. Why think of more? Like you could have the story be like they take them at 10. And then you could have this age of like, this would be the first chapter. But then you'd have to like be way too epic. Like then you're going to have to plant the seeds of revolution at age 10. And then have ways that story develops and that character who is 10 going to a society that's trying to control and manipulate them not to be able to do that. And then find a way to have revolt. Unless it was the opposite, right? So we're looking at the person that's the agency of the hero right here. And this is going to matter. Let me just figure out what the age of this person is. Because I can make an argument now for either. I can even make an argument that they're older, but it doesn't. The age will matter. If you want to make it the hero, the older they are, the more reality they're going to be. But they ain't going to like these Skylords. They're probably going to be the same race. They just happen to have all the money and the power, and they live in the sky, and they take the cream of the crop. And for some reason in this society, they still wait to 18. I don't quite get that. That makes no sense to me, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. And I say it makes no sense because you would want to take them a lot younger, and you would want to manipulate them. You would want to... Well, I mean, but at 18, you know... But if they have the technology to fly in the sky, they could be able to tell if a kid's health is going to be worth their time. You could do it like at a balance. I mean, you'd want to do it when they're young if you're going to take them. This is getting sillier and sillier. I think they're going to be young. I think this could be interesting in the fact that maybe this happens the first chapter. This happens, not the first chapter. The first chapter is the setup. This is the second chapter. The third chapter is you love it. And eventually you're going to have to start taking the older ones. And maybe instead of like, because like most dystopian novels starts with like the primary protagonist or group of protagonists that eventually overthrow it and a bunch of strong-willed characters. So they're able to persevere through adversity and win the thing they need to win to prove to go to the next step. There's the ones you want to follow. And I almost want to, what if it was like the secondary character? And maybe they had a pivotal thing. But maybe they have a pivotal role in the overthrow, and that's why they're important to this story. But if they're 10 years old, this would be the first chapter. So this is going to be the first chapter. And then kid's 18 and loves. And loves living in the sky. And this would be like chapter 2. And then I'm just going to do a chapter 3, and then I can write this out. And I don't care how it ends. I just need to write the first chapter. I mean, I care. Rising up, they rise up. Maybe they die. Maybe they fall. Then we have something like chapter last. Just to skip to it in between. Here we go. So we're going to build up some chapters. We'll process this along. We'll see how it goes. So chapter 2, chapter 3, in between. Last chapter. I don't know how the last chapter is. An older kid from the ground is... Oh, man, I like that. That's who the kid is, and that's why they have to bring him. They want to mix up the gene pool, maybe. And they can't wait. This is really dystopian. Past tense. So I can have this as like the narrator. And then the narrator at the end, something happens. Is it third person though? Shoot. It is third person. Shoot. I really want this to be first person. I had it. I had a good narrator right there. But oh well, let's third person. Third person past tense, right? Third person past tense dystopian. Well, we got the two characters right there. Destiny. 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 Jesus. I mean, that's Destiny, right? Drop that name when thinking of Destiny. For this, though, I don't know. It's like, I don't know Destiny. It's my destiny. Gosh, that sucks, man. It kind of puts a difference in if that's the conflict is destiny. I'm destined to do this. Like destiny. Is that destined? That's gonna be destined for me today. We can just throw it out there. I'll fake destiny by destiny. All living on the land are destined to be. Call them the Sky Lords. Call it the Sky Lord. And then, yeah. I think that'll work. Maybe. Maybe it won't. All living on the land are destined to be slaves of the Sky Lords. Let's just call it I don't know. The Sky Lords. Man, I just dropped thought in a big way. Like, I'm starting to think of other stories. Am I putting myself to sleep with this idea? I think so. That's a bad sign. It's like when you know your story should just be trashed, never looked at again, is when you start thinking of other stories and how much you'd rather be writing those. The Sky Lords. I'm trying to... Like, it can't be human-like, so people can become attached to it. I don't want, like, some creepy being that no one's going to be able to, like, have empathy or sympathy for. And so I got to make him human-like. And I don't guess... the Sky Lords float above. Okay, so I can have it actioning. I can have it actioning. This is the this would actually be chapter 2. And it is good that it's third person, so I can have it at 10. And that would be chapter 2. And then chapter 3 would be a summary of life. Like, life from 10 to 18 as a sky, as a servant, and slave to the Sky Lords. Live is from, what's his name? Life. I was meaning life, not the active verb, but more the noun. Okay, so we got Sky Lords shooting down. No. That's a bad name. Harvest. That's better. Boom, that's a good chapter name. It's called Harvest. And I've done 24 minutes. I think I got something I could write. I don't have to feel like, this will give me enough plot point, ending, things I need. I really want to write the story. Excuse me. Yes. Let's get some water there. I'll write the story to where it is first person. I mean, that'd be if I had time. If only I had time. And not a million other things to edit. Harvest. We'll start with the ship. The flying island. Casted. Shadow. Over the city. Ooh, that one's not a bad first sentence. The flying island cast a shadow over the city, allowing the light below to twinkle. Allowing the flying island cast a shadow over the city, allowing the lights and underneath the island to twinkle above like stars during the day. I like that. We can have more about the island. I don't know how to do this. I know how to do this. I just don't know where to start or what not to do, I suppose, is the accurate thought that I want to express at this point in time. I almost just want to do that right there. I'm trying to think of, do I want to have a big paragraph where I just define this flying island? I need that. And they would hang like stalactites. Stalactites or stalagmites? Stalagmite, stalactite. Stalag. There we go. Let's just do this. Stalactites. Hang like stalactites. And twinkle like glittery cones. High above the sky. Illuminating Tiny flying ships. Blinking white. Descending and diving to the ground. I'm just making this up. Obviously, I'm making it all up with the name. I don't know. I don't want this to be on Earth. Dillum. Lame name. I don't mean, that's pretty much what I want. We don't need to show the above, we'll just show the below. We got why you can see the twinkles because it just casts a large shadow. It'd be like an eclipse almost. I'm looking back at the definition of stalactites and stalagmites, and there's a neat little trick. Obviously, they pointed out right here. This is from the nationalparkservice.gov, which states it's easy to remember which is which. Stalactites have a T for top, and stalagmites have a G for ground. Well, there you go. I'll probably forget that, but maybe not. I feel like I've had a story, in fact, a book I'm about to be pushing out. I have used the term stalagmite, stalactite, top, down. Anyway, the city of Dillum. Gathers in the square. Downlord County. Dance, gather. Now we're counting. Yeah. I'm just trying to. Let's get an end to this chapter, and I can. If it was a flash fiction story, I'd stop like that, but it's not. Let's describe these Skylords in ways in which Skylords need to be defined. The city of Dillum gathers in a stand, blah, blah, blah. Could smile and wave goodbye to the parents as they dress in white bodysuits. And bow their heads. They step single file. They stepped. I got past tense. I mean, I always mess. I just like present tense. Wave to their parents. This would be after. feeling joy and pride. That's how it starts. Not even have the thing take off and go back to the ship. That's going to be part of this process here. Then chapter 3, then chapter 4. Chapter 5. I don't have to think of how it's going to end. I mean, I could, but I want to focus on this story. This is not too fun. This is dystopia, my bread and butter, unfortunately. I'm trying not to make it be, but it's too easy at times, all the time. The flying island casts a shadow over the city. The city of Dilum gathers in the town, in Little Town County. During the fall festival of food. A mile wide square, like crowded, a maze of booths and carts. Maze and carts. And even refurbished. Man, I'm just not wanting to write a certain way today. A little dangling modifier habit of mine I'm getting tired of. Patterns in which I write is predictable and the same. Boring, maybe. On occasion. Of course, I get called out times. And only because of the subject matter, really, that one would be like, you wrote this? And that subject matter that I don't get attached to is usually positive and happy. It's hard. Let's go dystopia. The city of Dilum gathers in the square of Down County during the festival of food. Floating globes of light and even a few torches illuminated the now night. Full of parents small marks, small black marks. I don't want to go forehead. Not only because I want to think of my own mark, that's going to be like the symbol of wanting to be taken. But I've also used forehead for other things, as far as where they inject a chip to be able to connect to your brain. I just don't even know. I mean, the forehead to me is where I'd go, the frontal lobe. Let's just still do it. Floating skateboards. A circle ship lowers to the landing pad. From the sky and darkness, a circle ship lowers to the landing pad. Only a gentle hum. Twinkling in the light. Show the people the Sky Lords have landed. Slowly. Few parents lift their children to their shoulders and pointing and shouting. And shouted. That's my child. Man, I just had this really weird thought, and I just want to get it out here because I went off on some tangent, as happens when I write sometimes, unaware of the fact that I'm being streamed live right now, and that's just part of writing, so deal with it. If you're a writer, you're going to have tangents. It's just a matter of getting back to the words, and I will, but I wanted to say this, I just thought, it just went away. I shouldn't have talked. Yeah, well, let's move on. Maybe I'll remember it. A few parents lift their children to their shoulders and begin pointing to the children and shout, "Bless my child," and to the sky. I give you this life. A few parents lift their children to their shoulders and begin pointing. There we go. I mean, I have a story. I don't hate this. It's not that horrible. I wish I had that thought that I should just wrote down, not talked about. Oh, yeah. Other parents wedged and pushed the new platform and yanked to the landing, to the... What's the gender? I don't have my dice. Just make it a non-generic name. We don't have to throw gender in there yet. If at all, well, I mean, if you're Skylords, yeah, you definitely like groom these kids. That's dystopia, man. That is dystopia. Yeah. But I don't need to go there. I mean, that could be well written later chapters. For this, is just the allure and the excitement. Few parents lift their children to their shoulders and begin pointing at their children and shout, "Bless my child, I give you life." Reggie stumbled after well, this is difficult. So that'd be dystopia. And maybe that's just it. They do groom, but they're not. They're going to wait till they're 18 to get married. The kid is 18. And maybe it's gonna be a guy, I think. Well, I mean, if this was, yeah, I guess I don't. Yeah, I think it needs to be a male, gendered human, oid human. Reggie stumbled after his mom. I think this is going. I'm writing words. So people pressed Reggie and his mom. Reggie's mom pushed back. I think I see this. Yeah. No, this works. I don't know. Yeah. Reggie stumbled after his mom, tripping over fallen kids and losing a shoe. His foot pressed against the concrete and kicked a few plastic bottles. His arm yanked. Egg like it was going to pop. People pressed Reggie and his mom. Reggie's mom pushed back and wrapped her arms around Reggie. What would I had some sound? So we're getting to the kid. Let's go back to the ship. I have a sound, don't I? Do 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 do. The gentle hum. Oh, the space saucer. Silences. Susan stops. Around the space saucer dims. The people stop. Reggie's mom pushes on. Pushed. And jostled. The edge of the okay. I think this will work out. I like the story. In the fact that it at least feels like something that, oh man, just dystopia though, man, that just sucks. I guess it's utopia because we're trying to overthrow dystopia, but still, it's kind of lame. So Reggie's mom pushed and jostled to the edge of the landing platform. A crack. A crack, then a square of light glowed. Yeah. Crowd erupted in cheers. Those above. Silhouettes. I always get this word wrong. I've looked it up enough. Maybe that's right this time, maybe not. All right, so from the light of the space saucer appeared a silhouette. Shaped like a human. And stepping near the edge of the light. Silhouette. Lifted their arms, and the light glowed. And the light beamed around the rim of the space saucer. The crowd quieted and stared and watched the beam, I can see this, become points of light. Casting small dots around the crowd. Casting small red dots around the crowd. Wide eyes. Children rose to the shoulders of parents and waved their hands, trying to attract the light to point at them. Moving dots slowed. And a few stopped on the foreheads of children, on the shoulders of parents. All right, well, we got something here. The moving dots slowed and a few stopped on the foreheads of children, on the shoulders of parents. The moving dots showed and slowed, a few stopped. The moving dots slowed and a few stopped on the foreheads of children, on the shoulders of parents. Foreheads of children, the shoulders of parents. Dots reflected the silver dot. Of Reggie. A smile. Spread on Reggie's face. Spread or spread? I don't know. Bless you. The crowd parted path to the glow. The Blessed Reggie. Okay, so that's some sort of writing right there. I've got time. I think I want to be able to get this done here sooner rather than later. I mean, I could easily go with this. Be like the White Mountains Part 2. A little bit more science fiction. A little bit more dystopia. I mean, the White Mountains, the Tripod series, I believe it's called right now, is very definitely like your early youth novels. I read them when I was in, fifth grade. Borderline young adult kid, so didn't deal with subjects like rape or slavery as much as one would expect in a society that takes people against their will, which is good. You don't need to get there all the time, and I wouldn't go there in this book either, because they're going to save and preserve this person to mate and create the new race, introduce them to be a Sky Lord. The Blessed Reggie smile and reach toward the silhouette. Reggie's mom and two parents next lifted Reggie to the platform. And that would be chapter 1. No build up, the event right there. Bam. You could probably add a little bit now. I mean, why mess around? Could that be it? Could that be the story? That could be the story. That is a first chapter. Sets it up pretty decent as far as at least the descriptions. Has some idea. Does it fit the parameters though? Future, sure. Location, sky. They're going to be going in the sky, and that's it. Person versus destiny. Like, this is like a destiny type thing. But also, one has the feeling of the destiny to get away from it, and one feels the destiny to get to it. Primary characters, two. There will be two. They'll try to be pair bonded. The one that comes later in life will be like, I want out. Third person, yes. Past tense, yes. Dystopia, yes. Novel first chapter. I don't know how this would end. I wouldn't want to say. But for now, it at least got the chapters that are going to lead up to the end. And this is a decent concept, and I could probably write this out, having, at least been exposed to other dystopia type novels. I think I'm going to read this aloud and just be done. And we'll rate at the end as I normally do. We don't need to take the entire time. Rarely do, I suppose. Is there things that could be fixed on this story? Possibly. Of course there is. This will be edited probably hundreds of times before I'd actually publish it. I mean, quite literally, maybe thousands if it was a book, but this first chapter alone would probably be 100 times. I've got receipts. The Flying Island. All right, well, let's do it. Let's go ahead and call this the story for today. The story is going to be a book. The book's called The Sky Lord. Maybe Dylan or Reggie becomes the Sky Lord. Of that, there would be chapters. The first one would be called Harvest. I don't have chapter names for the next, but the other chapter names would just sort of be where this 10-year-old kid, sort of what it's like, second chapter to be 10 and grow up or get processed. And then 3 would be from 10 to 18. And then chapter 4, kid is 18 and has to get pair bonded. Is basically a slave and a servant, but still loves it. Gets pair bonded with someone from the surface because they have to. And the kid on the ground is brought in for breeding. I got to have the chapter 4 is showing that they love it. And then, of course, the in-between here. I mean, I think this might work. I think it might not. What is this? Held a message. I have no idea. Anyway, I need to finish reading this thing aloud. So then the final chapter, I don't know. Maybe they become a Sky Lord and the dystopia just gets spread. And the in-between time would be the one trying to convince the other, and that would be the conflict. I think that would work out, for this story at least. But I want to go back up to the stochastic fiction parameters, and we'll see if this is actually something to be worthy of rating. I've definitely fallen in with in the future. Sky, destiny, 2 characters, third person point of view, past tense, dystopian. I'm going to read this aloud and then game this next week, same time. There's also a game going on tomorrow, video game Flash Fiction around this time. Also gets posted on YouTube. But that's around creating a Flash Fiction story within a given time constraint. I got 45 minutes left here, but I'm going to read this aloud. I'm confident I got something enough to start the first chapter of a novel, and if I had the time in life for another writing project, this would be it. The book would be called The Sky Lord, with hinting that this person would become a Sky Lord. The first chapter would be Harvest. We got to introduce the Sky Lords, primary protagonist, not necessarily the secondary. First chapter is called Harvest. This would be Harvest. The flying island cast a shadow over the city, allowing the lights and underneath the island to twinkle above the stars during the day. The island inverted buildings hung like stalactites and twinkled like glitter cones high above the sky, illuminating tiny flying ships blinking white and diving toward the city of Dillam. The city of Dillam gathered in the square of downtown Downlard County. During the fall festival of food, floating globes of light and even a few torches illuminated the now night full of people walking a maze of booths and carts offering pies, fresh onions, and even refurbished floating wagons and skateboards. In the center of the square, a dense crowd of people stand around the landing platform holding the hands of their young children. From the sky in darkness, a circle ship lowers to the landing pad. Only a gentle hum and a red light around the rim of the shows the people the Skylords have landed. A few people lifted their children above their shoulders and began pointing at their children and shouted, "Bless my child, and I give you this life." Other parents wedged and pushed toward the platform, yanked at kids' arms to, "Come on, and you want to be selected?" People pressed Reggie and his mom. In the crowd, Reggie and his mom pushed back and wrapped her arms around Reggie and carried Reggie like a backpack. She used her head to spear the crowd and get close to the platform. I think I skipped words, but whatever. The gentle hum of the space saucer soothes and stops. The light around the space saucer dimmed. The people stood and relaxed their stare at the space saucer. Reggie's mom pushed and jostled to the edge of the landing platform. She lifted Reggie onto her shoulders and shouted, "My Reggie is ready!" A crack, then a square of light glowed. The crowd erupted and cheered and shouted, "Those above, bless!" And many shouted, "Bless my child!" From the light of the space saucer appeared a silhouette shaped like a human, stepping near the edge of light. The silhouette lifted their arms, and a light beamed around the rim of the space saucer. The crowd quieted and watched the beam become points of red light, casting small red dots around the crowd. Children rose to the shoulders of parents and waved their hands, trying to attract the light to point at them. The moving dots slowed and a few stopped on the foreheads of children, on the shoulders of parents. The dots reflected from the silver dot in the center of Reggie's forehead. A smile spread on Reggie's face, and his mom shouted, "Bless you!" The crowd parted a path that glowed to the silhouette. Scowls and glares of envy casted on the faces, and a few touched red, saying, "Blessed." The blessed Reggie smiled and reached toward the silhouette. Reggie's mom and two parents lifted Reggie to the platform, and Reggie ran with glee toward the silhouette in a hug. Reggie smiled and waved goodbye to his mom after pushing away from the silhouette. The kids smiled and waved goodbye to the parents, feeling the joy and pride as bright lights dimmed and darkened. The door closed. I could use more on the end there. I didn't read some of those words aloud. It seems thin. I think a lot of times when I do these writing games, the end really suffers. As it probably has right here and right now. I'm done. That's the game for the day. It's a start. It's a story. Is it very well written right now? No. It's going to take probably about 10 more hours. Lots of editing. But a story doesn't need to be perfect to feel somewhat complete at some state. And unlike a painting or a song, you actually have to follow a lot more rules typically when you write to make it to be able to be read, unless of course you're a poet, but I'm not looking to make poetry right now. This is not flash fiction poetry. It's not timed poetry. This is flash fiction story time. Or stochastic fiction game time. Let's process on. Write a story inspired by chaos. And as time goes and as things flow, the stochastic fiction game has been timed out for today. Until next week at the same time, or the next game, check the schedule and check your own schedule. Make sure you have time to write, time to create. Could be the only thing that gives you any sort of happiness or leads to it.